live on YouTube, and we're just going to hold our reading until I actually see it on YouTube, which takes 1 minute. Believe it or not, it's a 1 minute delay. I timed it the other day.
Well, meanwhile, I'll go to page number 144.
Okay, so we're on, yes, we're on verse 44. And so in this reading, Krishna is explaining the self in a very Jungian way to Arjuna, just as Carl Jung might have done 5,000 years ago, it seems. So
you will invite haters by making this comment, believe me.
Yeah, we will invite what? Haters. Okay. If we invite haters, you know what Mark Twain said? He said, I don't care what you say about me as long as you spell my name correctly.
Ooh.
Right? Because if you invite controversy, then many people will come.
Well, the problem here is that I will get activated because of it. Remember that the response which I had to give the other day?
Yeah. Okay, let's see how it goes. You ready?
Is it? Scrolling.
Okay.
The first time in my life, I'm regretting not pursuing Sanskrit after my board exam.
Me too. Okay. Verse 44.
Bhogeshvarya prasaktana tayapaha tachetasama vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vadhiyate. Verse 44.
To those clinging to consumption and power, whose thoughts are stolen by this, that insight whose nature is firm is not given in meditation. The other translation reads, while their minds are absorbed with ideas of power and personal enjoyment, they cannot concentrate their discrimination on one point. Verse 45.
Trigurnya vishaya veda nistragunyo bhavarjuna nidrado nitya sattva sastho niyorgakshema atmavarna. Verse 45.
Arjuna, the Vedas belong to the three gunas, and you must be free of the three gunas, free from opposites, eternally dwelling in truth, neither acquiring nor keeping self-possessed. The other translation reads, the Vedic scriptures tell of the three constituents of life. The qualities rise above all of them. O Arjuna, above all the pairs of opposing sensations, be steady in truth, free from worldly anxieties, and centered in the self. And there's 2 footnotes here. Vedic scriptures, Rig Veda, verses and songs in praise of gods, and Samaveda, chants, Yajur Veda, a priestly manual for the performance of rituals of sacrifice, and Arthava Veda, magic formulas. So when he refers to Vedic scriptures, that's what he's referring to. And then when he refers to the qualities, this is the footnote. In Sanskrit, the first of the 3 qualities, gunas, is sattva, called purity in this version. Other translators render it as goodness, consciousness, or truth. Rajas is passion, desire, attachment, activity, the dynamic principle, and tamas is ignorance, inertia, and darkness. The doctrine of the three qualities is found in the Vedas, which prescribe rituals for those who, under the influence of the qualities, seek to attain material rewards and blessings of the gods. Such rituals are the very opposite of what Krishna is teaching about action without concern for reward. So in telling Arjuna to rise above the qualities, Krishna seems also to say that the spiritual seeker ultimately has to go beyond the conventions of rites, rituals, and scriptures. Verse 46.
Yavanartha udapane sarvatah sampalutodake tavanasaveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. Verse 46.
For a Brahmin who discerns there is as much value in all the Vedas as there is in a well when water overflows on every side. And the other translation. As a man can drink water from any side of a full tank, so the skilled theologian can wrest from any scripture that which will serve his purposes. And the footnote reads, other translators interpret this verse to mean that an enlightened person has no need for scriptures, just as there is no need for a well when the whole countryside is flooded. The state of realization is like a reservoir full of water, from which people quite naturally draw to satisfy all their needs instead of getting their water from many small ponds. Therefore, the Lord asks Arjuna to be without the three gunas and not waste his life in planning and achieving small gains in the ever-changing field of the three gunas. And that translation was from Maharishi. Verse 47.
Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phale hetu bhurma te sardodasatta karmani. Verse 47.
Your authority in action alone and never in its fruits. Motive should never be in the fruits of action, nor should you cling to inaction. Verse 47, but you have only the right to work, but none to the fruit thereof. Let not then the fruit of your action be your motive, nor yet be enamored by inaction. Verse 48.
Yogasthaha kuru karmani sadhye tyakvatyava dhanajaya siddhaya siddhyayo moho samo bhutva samatvaha yoga uchayate. Verse 48.
Abiding in yoga, engage in actions. Let go of clinging and let fulfillment and frustration be the same, for it is said yoga is equanimity. Verse 48. Perform all your actions with mind concentrated on the divine, renouncing attachment and looking upon success and failure with an equal eye. Spirituality implies equanimity. Verse 49.
Durena hyavyavara karma buddhi yogadhyanajayayah buddho saranamavichha krupana phalahetavaha. What's 49?
Winner of wealth, action is far inferior to the yoga of insight. Look for refuge in insight, for those who are motivated by fruits are to be pitied. Verse 49, physical action is far inferior to an intellect concentrated on the divine. Have recourse then to the pure intelligence. It is only the petty-minded who work for reward. And the footnote reads, pure intelligence, Bodhi Yoga, taking refuge in the wisdom faculty, Feuerstein. On Bodhi, see below note 27. So we'll get to that in a minute. Verse 50.
Buddhi yuktako hajatiha ubhe sukuta drushkute tasmadhogaya yujyasva yoga karmasu kaushallama. What's 50?
The one who is joined to insight casts off both good and evil acts. So join yourself to yoga. Yoga is ease in action. Verse 50, when a man attains to pure reason, he renounces in this world the results of good and evil alike. Cling to right action. Spirituality is the real art of living. Verse 51.
Karmachaha buddhi yukta hi falaha yaktva mani shina janma bandha vinimukta padaha gacchatatyavana ma yama. Verse 51.
The wise ones joined to insight and who have let go of the fruit, freed from the bonds of birth, they go to that place which is without pain. Verse 51. The sages guided by pure intellect renounce the fruit of action, freed from the chains of rebirth. They reach the highest bliss. Verse 52.
Yada te moha kalila buddhi vyastita rishyayati tada gantasi nirvedaha shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. Verse 52.
When your insight crosses well beyond the tangle of confusion, then you will become disillusioned with those revelations which have been heard and may be heard again. Verse 52. When your reason has crossed the entanglement of illusion, then shall you become indifferent both to the philosophies which are heard and to those you may yet hear. Verse 53.
Shruti vipratipanna te yada sthasyati nishchala samadhavachala buddhistada yogama vapyasya yasi. 53.
When your insight is in deep focus and when it stands motionless, ignoring the revelation which had been heard, then you will reach yoga. Verse 53. When the intellect, bewildered by the multiplicity of holy scripts, stands unperturbed in blissful contemplation of the infinite, then have you attained spirituality. And the footnote reads, spirituality is Purohit Swami's translation of the word yoga, which signifies the state of union with God, as well as any of several paths or disciplines that lead to union. The physical discipline known as Hatha Yoga is the best known yoga in the West, but many regard it as only a preliminary path leading to more advanced practices. Now, before we go on, I just wanted to mention to you, Khushboo, that our friend Miles is with us, and he made a couple of comments that are worthwhile for you to know. One is, haters are going to hate. Welcome, but I have a wrench because he is our protector. He is our protector on YouTube. And then he says, and he actually has a little wrench in his name here. And then he says, my goodness, these verses are great wisdom, such a wonderful way to present them in both Sanskrit and English. Thank you, Miles. We appreciate that very much. Okay, so now Arjuna is going to respond to Krishna. And so that will be verse 54. So verse 54.
Sthita pragyasya ka bhasha समाधिस्थस्य केशव स्थितधि ki प्रभाषेत किमासित व्रजेत किम. Verse 54.
Lovely haired one, what language is there for a person whose wisdom is firm and meditation steady? How would the one whose thoughts are firm speak or sit or move about? Juggling too many books here. Verse 54, Arjuna asked, my Lord, how can we recognize the saint who has attained pure intellect, who has reached this state of bliss, and whose mind is steady? How does he talk? How does he live? And how does he act? And the footnote reads, the question of Arjuna's introduces the glorious 18 stanzas, 55 to 72, which, as Gandhi points out, hold the key to the interpretation of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Gandhi, a devoted student of the Gita, was especially drawn to these last 18 verses of the second chapter. In every verse of this passage, we have clear proof that the battle referred to is within, between the forces of selfishness and the forces of selflessness, between the ferocious pull of the senses and the serene tranquility of spiritual wisdom. I strongly recommend these verses to be memorized for use in meditation because they gradually can bring about the transformation of our consciousness. And that is an interpretation from Easwaran. And I'm reading the notes from the SkyLight Path publications version of the Bhagavad Gita, annotated and explained, light illustrations. So now we have the 18 crucial verses. Verse 55.
Prajahati yada kamanasya varnapanpartha manogatana atmanaye vatmana tushta sthita pragyasta doshchayate. Verse 55.
Son of Prita, when a person renounces all the desires in the mind, that one is said to be content in the self, by the self, and firm in wisdom. Verse 55. Lord Shri Krishna replied, when a man has given up the desires of his heart and is satisfied with the self alone, be sure that he has reached the highest state. Verse 56.
Dukheshvanu dignamanaha sukheshu vigta spuha vitaraga bhayakrodha sthita dhirmo niruchyate. Verse 56.
The person whose mind is free from anxiety about sorrows and free from greed for pleasures, with rage, passion, and fear gone, whose thoughts are firm, that one is said to be a sage. Verse 56, the sage, whose mind is unruffled in suffering, whose desire is not roused by enjoyment, who is without attachment, anger, or fear, take him to be the one who stands at that lofty level. Verse 57.
Yaha sarvata nabhiste hashyata tratyapraya subhashu bhama na bhinnadati na deshita tasya pragya pratisthita. Verse 47. Verse 57.
The person who has no longing anywhere, coming across this and that, pure and impure, who neither loves nor hates, that one's wisdom stands firm. Verse 57, he who wherever he goes is attached to no person and to no place by ties of flesh, who accepts good and evil alike, neither welcoming the one nor shrinking from the other, take him to be one who is merged in the infinite. And there's a footnote. Accepts good and evil alike. This means that one does not get overexcited when good things happen or upset when bad things happen. It does not imply that one invites or sanctions evil. As Ramakrishna said, God is in everything, but you do not embrace a tiger. Verse 58.
Yada sanharate chaya krumodidaniva sarvashah indrirani nidra yarthabhyastasya pragya priti sthitita. Verse 58.
When a person draws in the senses from the sense objects in every sphere, like a tortoise pulls in its limbs, that one's wisdom stands firm. Verse 58. He who can draw his senses from the attraction of their objects, as the tortoise draws his limbs within his shell, take it that such a one has attained perfection. And there's a footnote. The tortoise image is a favorite metaphor for the practice of pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, or the ability to free sense activities from the domination of external objects, according to Eliade. The senses can be involved with outer experiences and yet be totally engrossed in them to be. Let me start that again. And this is from Maharishi. Quote, the senses can be involved with outer experiences and yet not be totally engrossed in them, to the extent that they transfer to the mind impressions deep enough to become the seed of future desires. Verse 59.
विषया विनिवर्तनते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्ज रसोऽड्यप्यस्यः परः दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. Was 39.
59. Verse 59. You said 39.
Okay. Oh.
Okay. Verse 59. These spheres of sense fall away from the embodied self who continues to fast. All except taste, and then taste too, falls away from the one who has seen the highest. Verse 59, the objects of sense turn from him who is abstemious. Even the relish for them is lost in him who has seen the truth. And verse 60. Verse 60.
यततो हयपि कौन्तेय पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथिनि हरनिन्त प्रसभ मनः. Verse 60.
Son of Kunti, the senses tear apart and violently seize the mind, even for one who makes great effort and who knows the tremor of reality. Verse 60, O Arjuna, the mind of him who is trying to conquer it is forcibly carried away in spite of his efforts, but his tumultuous senses. And there's a footnote. Mind, manas, here meaning the lower mind, which receives impressions from the senses and relays them to the higher mind, buddhi. The function of the manas includes both thought and emotion. Verse 61.
तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्तः आसीत मत्यपरः वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य pragya pratisthita. Was 61.
The person who has practiced yoga, restraining all these senses, should sit with me as a pinnacle. The one whose senses are in control, that one's wisdom stands firm. Verse 61, restraining them all like him meditates steadfastly on me. For who thus conquers his senses achieves perfection. Verse 62, verse 62.
So in my version, 62 and 63 are written together because they have a together meaning.
Okay.
Should I read
let's
it that way?
Let's read it 62 and 63 together.
Okay. Dhyayato vishayanupusah sadrahanga stepu pajayate sadrantasya jayate kamah kamatyako dhrod nijayate dhoda bashyavati sammoha hatasyasu tivi brahmah smriti samsada buddhinasho buddhinasatya pranashiyati. Was 62, 63.
Clinging is born to someone who dwells on the spheres of the senses. Desire is born from clinging, and anger is born from desire. Confusion arises from anger, and from confusion, memory strays. From the fall of memory comes the loss of insight, and one is lost when one's insight is lost. Verses 62 and 63. When a man dwells on the objects of sense, he creates an attraction for them. Attraction develops into desire, and desire breeds anger. Anger induces delusion. Delusion, loss of memory. Through loss of memory, reason is shattered, and loss of reason leads to destruction. And there are 2 footnotes. Desire, is said to breed anger because anger arises when desire is thwarted. Reason, bodhi, rendered elsewhere as intelligence or intellect, the seat of wisdom, jnana, vidya, prajna. The word comes from the root bud, to awaken. Buddhi is the aspect of consciousness that is filled with light and reveals the truth. When one's buddhi becomes fully developed, one becomes a Buddha or enlightened one. The main action of intelligence is to discern the true and real from the false and unreal. Okay, verse 64.
64 and 65 is also together. Okay. Ragadresha viyukeshutya vishana ninindra yeshvayana atmavashye vidyeyatma prasadamidhya gya tachatita prasade sarva dukhana hani rasyopajate prasanna chetaso hayashu buddhihi paryavatrishti. Verse 64, 65.
One not joined to passion and hatred, always moving in the spheres of the senses, by the senses. The one who thus restrains the self and who governs the self attains peace. In calmness there occurs the withdrawal of all pain. For that person whose thought is placid, insight becomes steady right away. Verses 64 and 65. But the self-controlled soul, who moves among sense objects free from either attachment or repulsion, he wins eternal peace. Having attained peace, he becomes free from misery. For when the mind gains peace, right discrimination follows. And the footnote reads, eternal peace, prasada, serenity or clarity. Prasada also means grace. Srila Prabhupada translates it in this verse as the complete mercy of the Lord. By the grace or mercy of God, the devotee becomes liberated from delusion. Verse 66.
Nasti buddhirayuktarasya na chayutyarasya bhavana na cha bhavayatah shintira sanatyasa kutah sukham. Verse 66.
There is no insight for one who has not practiced yoga. There is no peace for the one who does not concentrate. And from where does pleasure come for the one who has no peace? Verse 66. Right discrimination is not for him who cannot concentrate. Without concentration, there cannot be meditation. He who cannot meditate must not expect peace, and without peace, how can anyone expect happiness? Verse 67.
Indriyana hi charataha yamnonadunanu vidhiyate tadasya harati pragya vayu narvami vamna si. Verse 37.
Verse 67.
67, yes, it's okay. I know why I'm making that mistake, because it's identical and it looks like English, so my thinking language is English. Anyways.
Okay, so verse 67. When the mind is led by the roving senses, then it steals one's wisdom, like the wind steals a ship on the water. Verse 67. As a ship at sea is tossed by the tempest, so the reason is carried away by the mind when preyed upon by the straying senses. And there's a footnote. Reason, prajna. Okay, it's just a definition of the word prajna as reason. Verse 68.
Tasmadhasya mahabaho nirguhitani sarvashah indriyani nindrayarthe bhyasya tyasya pragya pratisthita. What's that? 68.
Strong-armed one, the wisdom of the person who has drawn in the senses from their objects in every sphere, that one's wisdom stands firm. And verse 68. Therefore, O mighty in arms, he who keeps his senses detached from their objects, take it that his reason is purified. Verse 69.
Ya nisha sarvabhutana tasya jargati sanyami yasya jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. Verse 69.
The restrained one is watchful during the night of all beings, and in the time when beings are watchful, that is the night of the sage who sees. Verse 69, the saint is awake when the world sleeps, and he ignores that for which the world lives. And the footnote reads, saint, Muni, silent one. A Muni is an advanced aspirant who has reached a high level of consciousness through practicing austerities such as silence. The English word saint has specific associations in Christianity. In this translation, a more general sense of spiritual holiness seems to be intended. Verse 70.
Apunya macha lapratinthah samudramapah pravishanti yadatta tadra takama ya pravishanti sarvesa shanti mapanotati na kamakami. Verse 70.
As the ocean becomes full, yet is steady and unmoved as the waters enter it, so that one whom all desires enter in this way gains peace. Yet this is not so for the one who desires desire. Verse 70. He attains peace into whom desires flow as rivers into the ocean, which, though brimming with water, remains ever the same. Not he whom desire carries away. Verse 71.
Vihaya kamanyah sarvanupu mashachayarati ni spunah nirmamo nirah kandada sa shanti madhi gachati. Verse 71.
The person who casts away all desires, who moves away from clinging, who has no idea of mine, and who has no idea of I, that one comes to peace. Verse 71. He attains peace who, giving up desire, moves through the world without aspiration, possessing nothing which he can call his own, and free from pride. Verse 72.
Esha brahmani sthiti parthanena prapya vimuvahati sthitva sya manta kale pandi brahana nirvana mru chati. Verse 72.
Son of Prita, this is the state of Brahman. If one has not reached this, one is confused, but firm in this, even at the time of ending, one reaches Brahman, the bliss of cessation. Verse 72. O Arjuna, this is the state of the self, the supreme spirit, to which if a man once attain, it shall never be taken from him. Even at the time of leaving the body, he will remain firmly enthroned there and will become one with the eternal. And there are 2 footnotes. Self, supreme spirit, Brahman, the ultimate reality, the formless absolute state of God, which is inseparable from the personal God and also identical with the soul or inmost self, Atman, of every being. Brahman is all, the one without a second. Because it cannot be described, it is often referred to by negation, neti neti, not this, not that. And the final footnote reads, become one with the eternal, literally, reach the nirvana of Brahman. Nirvana means blown out, like a candle, but it is not utter extinction or a state of non-being. Shri Easwaran explains it as the extinction of the limited, selfish personality. The illusion of separate individuality ceases to exist when the self merges with Brahman, just as the limited nature of a drop of seawater disappears when it reunites with the ocean. And there's one further note from Eknath Easwaran, and this is what he says, quote, one of the beauties of the Bhagavad Gita is that it does not say you should do this or you shouldn't do that. Shri Krishna simply says that if you want joy, security, wisdom, then this is the path. If you want sorrow, insecurity, and despair, then that is the path. He gives both maps in graphic detail and tells you that it is for you to decide where you want to go. This ends discourse number 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. I've been reading from the Penguin Classic Bhagavad Gita and also from the Light Illuminations Bhagavad Gita, annotated and explained. I've read the footnotes from the second one, the Light Illuminations Bhagavad Gita. And so when I began this, when I had my insight now 9 days ago only, believe it or not, the insight was that that Dr. Jung's psychology must be here in the Bhagavad Gita. And so now, and that's why I approached Khushboo to read this with me. And so far it's turned out to be 100% true. So Dr. Jung went to India at the age of 62, but he had been reading the Bhagavad Gita for many years because he quotes it in the Red Book, which was 20 years or 25 years earlier. So he must have been reading it for a long time. And so as I now see, which I hadn't really comprehended fully until this past week, the Bhagavad Gita really is a summary of Jungian psychology in some ways.
That's a big statement to make. Interesting.
Yeah. And
well, for me, why I got curious about it, it's because, of course, you approached me on the Mother's Day, and my mother's name is Gita, so I was obliged to say yes with love and honor and serendipity element, experiencing serendipity element. Apart from that, before Young, I have been, like Dr. Young, I have been obsessed with Mahatma Gandhi. And for me, he's Bapu. Bapu means grandfather. We call him Bapu in India. And I realized that he treats this book, which is Gita, as his mother in time of difficulties, when he was in dilemmas. And when I started Young, in Dr. Young, the very base process of the healing path which he suggests is individuation. If you understand what individuation process is, and if you know what Gandhi Bapu's personal evolution journey has been, how he embraced the changes. He was personally, he embraced the changes while becoming bigger and bigger in so-called influencer, like a pseudo influencer we see on the social media, but he was becoming that. He was getting the followers, which people get like boost in the social media, but he was getting in the real time, who was coming and staying in his ashram. So Tolstoy ashram in Africa, and then multiple ashrams here in India. So he went, you will realize that, oh my God, he documented his individuation journey. And I have also fascination of, when I die, I am going to sit with Dr. Young, Mahatma Gandhi, and Maya Angelou, and we are going to have a coffee together, probably tea, whatever, anybody, they can serve anything they want to. But that's my selfish reasons to be here, which I am very happy about.
Yeah, me too. Okay. So,
well, let me tell what we are gonna do.
Please.
Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow we will start chapter 3, in which we will go from 1 to 8, and probably if we choose to do it, 13 to 32. In which the first one is Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga. What does the perception, the point of view looks like? We'll learn about that. And another thing will be um, uh, different kind of simulation. So there's a concept of yagya. Yagya means, um, let's say, kind of alchemical processes. For an example, uh, imagine two creative people came together and they um, participated in certain rituals together with a common intention. For an example, being a co-founder. So you undertake certain processes together. So, uh, uh, so, the explanation of the processes which we undertake together when we come together for the intention. For an example, in ancient times, they used to do certain kind of rituals to bring uh, to bring the monsoon. If monsoon is late, then to bring the monsoon. So those kind of um, actions which you might have to do in the for what you want in life. So we'll have the explanation of that, and I want to read a small passage before we end. But
Before you
yeah,
read that, though, just let me ask one question. So you're skipping 4 verses, 9 through 12. Why is that? You said
why?
you said we would read 1 through 8 and then 13 through 32, I guess. And so I'm wondering why you are leaving out 1 through or 9 through 12.
Well, you found the printing mistake of the book, which I am following.
Aha.
Yeah, yeah. I have to. So I was reading from the index. I have to see if, yeah. But good that you pointed that out. Like, God bless you. Otherwise, we would, yeah.
Okay. And Dan C. asked this question. Karma yoga is one of the tapas, isn't it? Can you answer that?
I'm not sure if I'm right, but my answer will be no. All the action you can perform in any um, uh, form of Vedas. For an example, tapas, no, not only that. The same action can be performed with a different intention or in the different
Okay.
style. Yeah.
Okay. So I understand. So it can be like karma, or it can be like spirituality.
Yeah.
You know, you can perform it in a karmic way, which would be within the field of opposites, whereas you could also perform it in a spiritual way, which would be outside the field of opposites.
And you can perform in the both way.
In both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And uh, so the sattvic and the karmic and tapas, it's also a food. It's like non-veg food is rajas and pure veg food is sattvic. So saint only eats sattvic food, which is pure plant based, okay. And then the king's men can eat, uh, uh, the people who are going to who goes to a battlefield eat non-veg, which is, I think, rajas bhava, uh, which is rajas because they have to go and fight and a lot of other things. So yeah, yeah. So it also reflects in the food we eat. It becomes sattvic if it is pure plant based, and it becomes rajas of in its nature if it's non-veg, kind of,
I
because
see.
there is, yeah.
Well, that's an interesting distinction that I never realized. Of course, I love Indian veg food. The Indians have perfected veg eating. But I also love Indian beef, or I did love until I no longer can eat it. But
I have been vegetarian but I have been so curious about food, and then there were a few people who were very sad, and they had to eat, they had to feel that the homemade food. That is how I explored different non-veg food, because people were homesick and their mothers were teaching me the recipe because their children were homesick. Oh God,
I see.
yeah. But
Well,
I am vegetarian for the ethical reason, and I'm very aware about it. But I like non-veg.
yeah, I don't miss, anyway, I don't miss the meats that I cannot eat anymore, like beef, lamb, and pork. I can no longer eat, so I don't miss them because my system changed when I was 65, and so I can, because I was bit by a tick, I can no longer eat those things or I will die. So,
Oh, I have a systemic response. Every time I eat non-veg, I get sick. Yeah.
well, so, and I never eat, well, I eat chicken and fish, but not uh, animal meat anymore.
There is this one saint here. I don't want to name him. He's a controversial one. But he was preaching that fish is veg. And I was
Hmm.
like kind of surprised. But yeah. Anyways, if we are Rajas food and Tamas food and Sattvic food, so if you want to become a priest, there is like literature in Ayurveda, what kind of food you should eat so your mind stay there, and what kind of food you should eat so you can be a warrior and things like that. So anyways, I want to
Okay, you
from
were
the
going.
diet
Yeah, you
from the
wanted to
diet
read something in our conclusion.
yeah, do you, so after that, can I read those three lines which I read every
Yeah,
day and we
yeah,
can end it?
yeah, yeah.
Is there anything you want to express more?
Not for today.
Okay. Okay. So this is kind of a, I would say, teaser for tomorrow, not the conclusion. Mm. It says, you and I experience life differently. Is the idea of immortality and rebirth real or conceptual? What is real? Can the conceptual be real? Our understanding of reality is a function of capabilities of our body or deha, home, home of the atma. Okay, so yeah. What is real for a plant is not real for an animal. What is real for one human is not real for another. Nature is all about diversity. This understanding of the body, the instrument through which we experience and express reality, is not explicitly a part of Gita, but certainly a part of Vedic knowledge elaborated in the Upanishads that Krishna assumed Arjuna to be familiar with. Does it make sense?
Yes, and so I want to bring to your attention, make another Jungian connection to this, what you just read, which is a brief passage from paragraph 752 of Answer to Job. Answer to Job. This is there. Okay, that's the book.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Okay, and so Dr. Jung says, clearly the material evidence for the existence of this psychic phenomenon is more than sufficient. It does not matter at all that a physically impossible fact is asserted, because all religious assertions are physical impossibilities. If they were not so, they would, as I said earlier, necessarily be treated in the textbooks of natural science. But religious statements, without exception, have to do with the reality of the psyche and not with the reality of the physis. So not with reality of the physical world. And so when fundamentalists in the United States say that the Bible is true, they're 100% correct. But it's not necessarily true in the physical world. I mean, to the extent that the Bible is a historical document that explains historically what happened when, yes, okay, that's a physical truth. But some things in the Bible are accused of being magical thinking, but they're not magical thinking, they're religious thinking. And all religious statements, without exception, are statements of the psyche. And in that sense, they are 100% true.
Well, so, you're going to have a same feeling about this book ahead.
I'm sure.
Yeah. There is something called, I'm waiting to go to the chapter actually, where Krishna reveals his real self. So imagine a battlefield when you are having a conversation with your chariot?
Chariot driver, yeah. Chariot.
And chariot driver, and you know that he's divine, but he chooses to, in the conversation, he chooses to show his real, original, infinite self to you. How I'm waiting for that part.
Okay, I'm waiting for that part too. That's going to be an exciting part.
All right.
So your 3 sentences.
Sure. Well, thank you, Miles. I had to mention it. Thank you so much, Miles. Well, thank you everybody for watching too. Here I read. And we'll try to not laugh after it today. Within infinite myths lies an eternal truth. Who sees it all? Varuna has but 1,000 eyes. Indra, 100. You and I, only 2. Okay?
And on the US dollar, there is only 1.
You couldn't stop yourself, couldn't you?
No, I can't stop myself, because if we're doing anything, we're fighting against materialism. And
I'm into that, yes.
Right. And so the US dollar is the symbol of materialism. And on the US dollar, there is one eye, okay, the Cyclops.
All right
then. So
argument accepted.
So it's not inappropriate for us to laugh, because laughing comes from the shadow. It comes from not having conscious something that we should have conscious, that we should be conscious of, right? So materialism does not lead to happiness. Okay. The American, that's the point. Okay.
Of us unconsciously laughing about it.
Yes, because materialism is the religion of America, okay, right now. But we have to change that, because materialism does not lead to consciousness. There's never enough. You can never get enough. Remember the boat that I show the picture of sometimes.
If the materialism is the religious of America, then Jesus will be very upset about it. Maybe, probably.
Well, yes,
Where is Jesus?
because we've never actually tried Christianity, right? We've used Christianity as an excuse for materialism. So I'm sharing my example of this, which is this 64-foot motor yacht called Never Enough. And you see that this motor yacht is very sad because it is empty. It is sitting at the dock. There's nobody in it. It's dark. And so the point of it is that this man may have had many yachts building up over his lifetime, but it's never enough. So when he gets the 64-footer, it's still not enough. And he even named his boat Never Enough because he knows it's not enough. And so my point is that our president is the poster boy for materialism, right? In his lifetime, by hook or by crook, he's gotten everything he ever wanted, right? He's gotten women, he's gotten skyscrapers named after him, and he's become US president. You know, if we could think of anything else that he never got, I don't know what it would be. And yet, is that man happy? Is he happy? Nobody has to answer that question here. It's a rhetoric question. It's a rhetoric question. But, you know, is the president of the United States happy? Will he die happily? Will he be happy when he dies? Okay. That's my comment about materialism. So anyway, that's why I always have to say the one eye.
Convinced.
Right.
Convinced.
That's my
yeah,
homily.
actually it grounds us. It grounds us into the reality.
Right.
So,
right.
That's a good thought to end on.
Okay. So thank you. I'll see you tomorrow, Khushboo. Thank you. I enjoyed it.